All right, we're sneak peeking into week 16 into the NFL, which has already started on a big Thursday victory for the LA Chargers in the AFC West. Both teams still look pretty good as far as the playoffs, but the Chargers now feel a lot better after beating Denver in a crazy, unpredictably high scoring game. Matter of fact, I'm not sure what to think about the Chargers defense now all of a sudden there, Jim, because the Chargers defense the last couple of weeks just haven't looked anything like the defense from most of the season.
No, it hasn't. And I don't know how you can explain it. The Jim Harbaugh coach team, good defense all year, and now they're just giving up tons of points.
Yeah.
I know all these teams have injuries, but at this stage of the game, everybody's hurt.
They don't have the depth.
No, they don't. No, they're
That's
not.
the problem.
They're not as strong as, roster-wise. They're not as strong as they were a year ago.
Yeah.
But of course they don't have Staley as a coach now, so they have Harbaugh as a coach, and that's a monster difference.
Yes, I can only be so lucky next year when the Jets hire their coach that they hire someone like that. That's why I'm going for John Gruden, baby. But anyway, that's a different story. Okay, so we got some games coming up in just a little while. Matter of fact, if you're watching this video, depending on when you're watching it, we're recording this just a couple of hours before Houston and Kansas City kickoff in Kansas City. What a wild line week it's been in that one. And it's interesting because the last time that we did our show together on Monday, we talked about this exact situation with Patrick Mahomes and his ankle and the whole thing about, Patrick's got a bum ankle and look out. And so, look, we kind of gave you the heads up that you can believe it, but I said, wait until the game time. Before I will not believe it until I see him not playing. Let's just put it that way. That's what we talked about. So take advantage of those points. Or we hope you did, because now all of a sudden the line has gone from, well, you tell me, how is the line? Give me all the line changes this week for this game.
Well, with that injury, Houston opened the favorite 1.5, 2.5, up to 3. When it got to 3, I took Kansas City +3.
Up to 3.
Thinking that, that's an awesome place to have the great team like that at home, even if Mahomes doesn't play.
Agreed. Yes. Even Carson Wentz can go out and have a good game.
Now it's the other way. Now it's Kansas City 3.5. So the bookmakers are in trouble with this game because there's people on both sides of this game +3, and they can easily get middled, which means they lose every bet. And now not everybody did that. So
how do they lose? Tell me the worst case scenario. What would the final score? What would the deciding line be in order for them to get really screwed?
Either team winning by less than 3.
Okay, and that's when they're in big trouble.
Well, they'd lose every bet.
Okay.
If but not everybody went out.
Not everybody. Just anybody who was smart enough to.
But anybody that did.
Okay.
They're sitting on a 6-7 point middle, actually, because the game's not going to end up in a tie except for a very unusual situation. So somebody's going to win by 1, 2, or 3. Well, even if it's 3, they'd side one side and lose the other. But if one or two would be death.
And then you've got the game a little bit later on, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And it's just crazy. Look, we understand that Pickens isn't playing, and that's a big deal. So what happened last week when Pickens didn't play? But the line being now 7, it looks like that's just growing.
That's insane. It's crazy.
Remember, last week against the Eagles, who beat up the Ravens just about a few weeks ago, if it wasn't for Harris fumbling the ball late in the third quarter, Pittsburgh could have won the game. And they didn't have Pickens. So what is this? And Pittsburgh has beaten Baltimore 8 out of 9.
This is one of those things that don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Yes, Baltimore should be favored. No question about that. Maybe 3. You might even say 4 because of Pickens. But 7?
Yeah.
Come on.
It's insane.
That's too much.
Yeah. Especially because Pittsburgh has won 8 out of 9 against Baltimore. 4-0, straight up ATS, last 4 they've played.
Of course, the other night, I thought that the Denver and Charger game would be a low-scoring game, and that turned out to be about 20 points wrong.
Well, that's totals. But we also know that history has told us that the total in this series is usually quite low. So if you want to go that way.
And by the way, this is an extremely important game. So for both teams, so they're going to play hard.
Okay, and then let's not talk about Sunday's games because most of you guys probably already know what's going on Saturday if you're watching this video here today on a Saturday. But let's talk about the games on Sunday, and in no particular order. Cleveland and Cincinnati, and the Bengals are still in it. We've talked about that the last couple of weeks, Jim, and everything is and that worked out perfectly because it would have been a big help if Denver would have lost to the Colts. But it's still, Denver did lose, and so now Cincinnati will host Denver next week, but they got to take care of business first against Cleveland, beat Cleveland, and then beat Denver next week, and then they have a shot. What do you think about tomorrow's game between the Browns, who will be starting a new quarterback again?
And that is the problem. I would rather if Winston was playing because he's going to go out there and he's going to score for both teams. He's going to throw interceptions and he's going to throw touchdown passes. This guy, we don't have enough history with him. I would imagine it's going to be a more conservative game plan. I think that's why you've seen the total go down from much higher to 46.5. So you're not going to see the Jameis Winston show out there throwing the ball all over the yard. You're going to see a lot more running, and it's a more conservative. But Cincinnati is an awesome offensive team. Burrow is arguably, when you watch him play, he looks like the best quarterback in the league. But their defense is a high school defense. So can they stop anybody?
Well, they have
right now. You would say that Cleveland has the best defense on the field today. So
but they're so far apart offensively. We
don't know what we're going to get out of this young man.
I think this is a smart idea, though. Let's get the kid. I'm not a big DTR fan. I don't think he's going to amount. There's no way this kid's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Just no way. Maybe he could latch on as a nice backup and have a nice backup career. But this is the perfect game to bad defense. If you're going to start a young kid, this is the defense to start him against, I guess, right? Get him in there against the Bengals defense. Sort of like the Atlanta Falcons. Get him in there against the Giants. Get these young quarterbacks in against these bad teams.
I'd rather play against Cincinnati's defense than any other defense in the league.
Absolutely. They're that bad.
It's a 9-point line. 46
that's pretty high.
Yeah. But the way since if Cincinnati puts up their normal 30 points, then you're gonna Cleveland's gonna have to counter that because you're not gonna stop Cincinnati unless something happens that we cannot predict. The way they move the ball with those wide receivers and Burrow's accuracy, it's they're going to score points. I would say over is the right bet, especially because if it does open up and they do get a lead, let's say they go up 14, 17, nothing. Well, Cleveland's going to have no choice but to open it up. They're not going to run the ball and try to catch up. They're going to have to throw the ball all over the yard. And we know it's going to be cold. That's a given. But both teams know how to play in the cold. So, they're not that far apart.
And there's no Nick Chubb now. So you can't rely on the Browns running game, which has done nothing anyway all season. By the way, the Browns are 3-11 against the spread this year. So that's another reason. I'm taking Cincinnati, but it's not like a major bet, but it's kind of like I just get this feeling that all of a sudden that something is like interestingly happening here with the Bengals. They got Denver next week. It's too good to be true that they're going to go into that game with a chance still left. And I don't think they're going to ruin their chance against Cleveland, but it is a big spread. But that 3-11 spread against Cleveland is the reason why I'm also confident that the Bengals are probably the play here.
I like the Bengals, but I'll tell you what, if you're a teaser player, you might be looking at 9. You don't want to go from 9 to 3, so you have to 6.5. You go 9 down to 2.5.
Yeah.
With a 6.5 point teaser. It is one of the legs that you could have. Now, I'll tell you another thing. You could, you still have time to do it. How about taking the other side? Take Pittsburgh on the 6.5 and take up the 13.5 with Pittsburgh, and then Cincinnati down to 2.5.
Sure,
that's not a bad play.
No.
Actually. And if you want to go one more step, and you go to the next game, you go Detroit, and take the 6.5 point line down to nothing. Now you've got a 3-team teaser with.
Sure.
Hell, when I get off here, I'm going to bet it.
There you go. Cincinnati, though, 1-4 straight up and against the spread as a home favorite this year. So this we talked about last week about how good the role was as a road favorite, but matter of fact, they're actually good period on the road, but at home, not so good this year. So just keep that in mind. They have covered, though, 8 straight when they take on a division opponent off of a home loss in a dog roll. And you get that, of course, from Playbook, the Playbook magazine. And the Cleveland Browns have dropped 8 straight covers as division dogs versus losing teams. And they're 0-1 this year in the same role because they lost to the Cincinnati Bengals by 7 when they were a 5-point dog.
By the way, we should probably mention Mark Lawrence does a hell of a job. He's put out a big bowl issue and cover every bowl game. It's massive and it's great. So, I mean, that's a playbook. I don't have it in front of me. Maybe you do.
But. Well, we're going to, that's, you get that like as a, I guess like a PDF newsletter.
Yeah, that's online, yes.
Yeah, I haven't printed it out, but yeah, what you can do is, and we'll have a link in the description for that. So just look in the link, it'll spell out College Football Bowl to click here, College Football Bowl newsletter, and then there you go. So yeah, it's awesome. And look, not necessarily that you have to, of course, go and take every game that's on there. But what's so great about it is that it's got so much information for you to make up your own mind. And then Mark gives you his picks.
Yeah.
And he's, of course, usually right.
You don't have to agree with everything that's in there, but the information using it, I don't think anybody tells anybody to agree with everything. So, yeah. But there's great information in there that you can't get anywhere else, or it can't get easily anywhere else. That's for sure.
All right. Let's just some other games that nobody really cares about. Tennessee at Indianapolis. Indianapolis is now done pretty much. They have beaten
Greg, I have a hard time even trying to figure these games out that don't mean anything because they're trying new things. They're trying new styles, new game. Their whole game theory has changed because I got absolutely nothing to play for except trying to look at players and what are we going to do next year? I mean, it's hard to analyze these games.
It's a lot. I will say this: it is a lot safer than college football bowl season. I can give you that much. Trying to figure out who's starting. Oh, the guy's transferring. Oh yeah, but he's playing. Wait, what? I thought he's in the transfer portal and he's oh, but he's playing for them. I mean, it's who's playing for him and who's not, and it's like, oh, it blows your mind. It's just really hard. But
don't you think they have to have some regulation?
They have to. Absolutely. I mean, they're going to have to. It's ridiculous, especially when it impacts betting, because it'll eventually work its way. Betting, of course, trumps everything in this world, it seems, with football. So you can bet you that they're going to fix it. Okay, Indianapolis is a 3.5-point favorite against Tennessee. I guess they're starting a new quarterback. Indianapolis, meanwhile, is 3-0 straight up ATS last 3 versus the Titans, including an upset win in Tennessee. That was on October 13th. They won by 3 as a 2-point road dog. By the way, Tennessee is 5-14 against the spread in revenge games when they're on the road against a division opponent, coming off a straight up ATS loss. And they're 0-7-1 against the spread away in that role. So not a good spot for Tennessee normally. And again, Indianapolis has beaten Tennessee lately. And I just think that Indianapolis is a better team right now anyway. Tennessee, by the way, is only 2-12 against the spread this year. So I'd have to take Indianapolis as only a 3.5-point favorite. I know they're not a playoff team, but they seem to be a better team than Tennessee.
Like I said, these games that don't matter, I'm not gonna be involved. I mean,
keep in mind, Tennessee's not out of it. We say they're out of it, but they're not.
Please.
No, but they're not playing like they think they're out of it. They're just not.
Please don't put them in the playoffs. Oh my God.
No, I've already said it. They're out of it, but they think they are. So they're going to play the game like they mean it. Tennessee, we know that they're just playing with all sorts of crazy stuff. They have no idea what they're doing. All right, big one, and that is Philadelphia at Washington.
That's a big one.
And we've already had we have a nice video on the site. You can check that out. We have David Harrison, who covers the team for Locked On Commanders, and he gave a good take on the Eagles-Washington matchup that played not too long ago. So you can check that out. We'll have a link in the description. This tomorrow at 1 o'clock, actually. So it's nice to see they have a good game at 1 o'clock for a change. And in this one, if the Eagles win the game, that's it. They clinch they clinch the division. And doesn't the NFC have that thing going on too? That long trend where they have different team wins the division every year or something like that. I forget what it is, but
it's definitely not going to be Dallas. That's for sure.
No, it won't be, and it won't be the Giants. Eagles are 10 straight. They've covered 7 of the last 9 as well. Let me see here. Where is it? Oh, they're 7-1 straight up ATS on the road this year, or at least I should say away from home, because they had that game in Green Bay, which is considered a road game. So this is a really good spot for the Eagles when they're on the road in this situation. For Washington, they're in a more desperate deal here. Philadelphia, we know they're going to the playoffs, but for Washington, they need to get another win to make sure that they get in.
Yeah, it's always tough when you have a division road favorite. Normally I'd jump all over the underdog in a spot like this, but right now the way that Philadelphia is dominating teams, I'm not gonna stand in front of that bus. They're so physical. They run the ball as better than anybody else in the league. You might say Detroit when they're now, Of course, Detroit's got some issues because they have to play a little differently on offense because they can't stop anybody on defense because of their injury issue. But between Philadelphia and Detroit, I thought they were 2 fantastic teams. Right now, Philadelphia has taken over, I think, the best team in the league, AFC and NFC, with the dominance on running. And Hurts, people knock him a lot, but he can throw the ball. He's a good quarterback. He's not the best quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. He also can run very well. And this is a dominant football team that right now is the best team in football due to injury issues to other teams, in my opinion. And so this is a tough team to stand in front of. And Washington, Philadelphia's not going to go in there and just lay down for this team. They're going to play.
Yeah, I'm going with Washington in this one. I just think that, honestly, part of it is I think it's tough to beat it. 2 good teams going up against each other. It's hard to beat them, sweep them. I also think eventually Philadelphia, just like Detroit, Philadelphia is going to find a game against a good team that is just going to beat them. And they just went on the road. They just came off a very physical game against the Steelers. So I just I think this could definitely be it. And I'm going to go ahead and take Washington in this one. Dan Quinn, in his career as a head coach, is 15-4-1 against the spread as a dog when he's coming off a straight-up win. And he's 2-0-1 in that spot this year. And the team, the Commanders, have covered 6 straight as a home dog of 5 or less. when they take on an opponent with a winning percentage of 600 or more. So again, this is going to be a 1:00 game, the road finale for the Philadelphia Eagles. Washington, meanwhile, if they lose this game, keep in mind they're playing Atlanta next week. So if Atlanta does what they're supposed to do and beat the Giants, then that becomes a very interesting game next week, just like we were talking about with the Bengals in Denver. Because Atlanta would be a game behind Washington and playing Washington for the right to pass them in the standings, which all of a sudden would put Atlanta in the playoffs and Washington out. So
that whole Atlanta thing is interesting because they're still battling with Tampa Bay for division honors, and Tampa is arguably the hottest team in football at the moment. So I mean, and then Atlanta is starting. Cousins is sitting. They benched him because it looks like his arm is dead for some reason. I don't know what the hell happened. But they're bringing in the kid, which everybody criticized. Why the hell did you draft this kid when you paid Cousins all that money? Well, I guess right now it looks pretty smart that they did. But so I mean, they're an 8.5-point favorite over the Giants, and the 43 is the total. We don't know what we're going to get from the Atlanta offense, but I will tell you this: that team can run the ball. They have talent. The Giants, I would never lay 8.5 points with a brand new quarterback. I'm not going to do that, and I'm certainly not going to bet the Giants because they don't look like they're even trying to play.
That's a concern to me. I know there's some talk about. I think most people are saying they believe Daboll will be back. Well, it's not his fault, the personnel, the quarterback, and all this stuff. But at some point, can you win a game against can you give an effort? Can you show something? I mean, I know the quarterback may not be, you might have a good quarterback, but I mean, the rest of the guys are out there. Why can't you play competitive football? That's a coaching situation.
It also is a dumping situation. They're tanking to get the draft choices that they want. And I mean, I'm not saying that's officially the answer, but when they got rid of Jones and they went from their first, he was our number one quarterback. They got rid of him. And then instead of going to their second string quarterback, they went to the third string quarterback, which is DeVito. Now he's not playing today because he's hurt, or Sunday, I should say. But right there, it looked to me like, hey, this is a team that really doesn't want to win. They want to make sure they get that draft choice. And they're in a battle with, I'd say, the Raiders for the possibility of doing that, getting that number one. I don't know who, there's not really any great quarterbacks that I would say you want, unless I don't know who you would go after at the quarterback position out of college, but maybe. I mean, there's a couple out there that are possible, but they're not really highly rated. I would say this is Atlanta's game to win. I think they're going to play very hard at home. I think they're going to run the hell out of the ball. I think that's what they're going to do best in this game. And I would say that you're not going to get a lot of points in the game. So I'm thinking maybe this is an underplay.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there were a whole lot. What's the number again?
43.5 or no, 40, excuse me, 43.
Yeah, it sounds right to me. I mean, where are the points going to come for in this game? You're right. I mean, that's going to be
I don't know. But we do have this mystery with this quarterback because he's not played at all.
Yeah, but the thing is, if he was that capable, then we would have thought he would have been in sooner. So anything's possible.
Well,
anything's possible.
When you pay somebody $186 million, it's hard to put him on the bench, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, a matter of fact, I think the Giants are not the worst idea in the world to go with the money line. I just don't. Their defense is not the problem. They've got nothing on offense. But now you're saying, okay, the defense is still pretty good. They still have some players on defense. I know.
You want to bet? Did you just say you want to bet the Giants on the money line?
I said it's not the worst idea in the world. Yes.
Well, yeah. I'll tell you what. Send me the money.
No, I'm telling you. You just said we don't know what we're getting out of the quarterback.
Yeah, but they're not even trying to win.
Well, no, they almost won last week against the Saints. And the Saints right now are just the way Atlanta's playing.
the Saints are garbage also.
And I think Atlanta isn't any better right now,
Well,
the way they're
Atlanta
playing.
at least has something to play for.
Well, that's the thing, but that's why you're getting 4-1 on the money line. So it's a big number. Again, I wouldn't do this with Cousins. As bad as Cousins is playing, I wouldn't do it.
I'm going to send you a box of matches so you can burn your money.
No, you'll see. I think it's going to be a lot closer. Again, if the kid comes out and lights it up, then hey, that's not. Hey, we said that was a possibility. But if the kid comes out and plays like a rookie,
I don't think he's going to light it up. But I think they're going to run the ball a lot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, and not having Dexter Lawrence in the middle, that's the big loss for the Giants. Okay, and plus, by the way, the Giants 1-9 against the spread in their last 10 games. So that's why I'm saying if you're going to take the Giants, you might as well just take the money line, go for it, because they're probably not going to cover the game either. But the Falcons are 0-4-1 against the spread in their last 5. So anything's possible. Rams at the Jets, and the Rams are, of course, still a big factor right now in the playoff race. And they're taking on a Jet offense that has all of a sudden woken up the last couple of games, which could make it interesting for the Jets' decision in the offseason if this continues, as far as what to do with Aaron Rodgers, with the new head coach and so forth. With the Rams, they are all of a sudden, in a couple of weeks, they're now, it's interesting. It was Arizona had control. Seattle had control. Now the Rams have control. So they just keep giving up control. But the Rams on the East Coast trip playing an early game, 3-point favorite at the Jets. What do you think about this one?
I don't like the situation for the Rams. I do. The motivation, of course, is there. But the Jets are capable enough. And Rodgers, I don't know about coming back next year. The man's going to be 41, going on 42 next year. He's not, nobody's Tom Brady. Nobody takes care of their body like Tom. So we can't use that as a standard, what he did at his age. Rodgers is just, he's an older version of himself, but his ability to throw the ball, he was born with that ability. He is just a natural thrower of the ball. And the last couple of weeks, he's looked pretty damn good. Now, the Rams are not a great team by any stretch of the imagination. They're a very good team, and they're very well coached. But they're not a great team. So here you got an indoor team from the West Coast going east to play in weather. It's cold in New York. It's not, that's not what they're used to on the West Coast. And there's some factors in this game that would bother me if I was thinking about betting the Rams. I would not bet the Rams. I would bet the Jets. There were some better numbers than 3.5 was out there, and the hook is big because 3 is a very big number in the NFL, and taking 3 in a hook is a whole lot better than taking 3. I'm not seeing 3 in a hook right now, but I am seeing 3 minus juice, which would lean you to being like 3.25, but not 3.5. So you might get to that point. It's also an early game, and that has not always been in favor of the West Coast team traveling east, playing in an early game. So
and
you have
some,
you have some edges to the Jets, but Stafford's pretty damn good, and if it was a pick'em, I'd probably bet the Rams, but I'm not 100% sure that I would.
And by the way, the money line is at minus 165 for the Rams, about plus 140 for the Jets, which is pretty high for getting 3. So that's a decision you have to make. Do you want the 3 or the plus 140?
I'd say if you could get 3.5 or 4 with the Jets, it would be better bet than anything else.
Yeah, the Rams right now might be it could be a lay of minus 120, like you said, minus 125 if you're going 3. The other thing, not only is the fact that it's cold, but it's going to be really cold. It's going to be like 20, 25 degrees. There's going to be a 10-mile-an-hour wind, and this is a West Coast team. This is a warm weather team, and Matthew Stafford's a little old. He takes a couple of hits in that weather. he's going to be wishing he was somewhere
Well,
else.
you got two old quarterbacks.
Yes, you do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No
And
question.
both have had great
Even though
careers.
Aaron Rodgers has had a long history of playing in cold weather, Matthew Stafford is not. So,
well, he played in a cold weather city, but it was indoors.
yes. So he's played in the
And
dome.
by the way, he still plays indoors.
He does. So he has not had to really deal with a lot of experience in cold weather games. So we'll see how this goes. Could be interesting. Yeah. But this, again, only if the Jets and Aaron Rodgers play like they have the last couple of weeks offensively. If they don't, then the Rams, no problem. Okay. Oh, by the way, the Jets are 12-1 against the spread at home when they take on a winning non-division opponent. So that's a pretty big 12-1 in that in this situation. All right, let's move on to Arizona at Carolina. And you have Carolina now back into a dog roll. So this is why Carolina, when you're trying to take them in the spread situation, because as we said last week, we were not comfortable with Carolina as a favorite. And they laid an egg as a favorite.
They sure did. They burned me. I think it was like 34 or 35 games in a row they were a dog, and then they make them a favorite, and they didn't even show up. I mean,
yeah, you could tell they were. It's funny. They're marching down the field after the kickoff. They get down to the 20. Everything is working perfectly, and you're going, "Oh, this is okay." Carolina is still to play, right? And then Bryce Young, when he's scrambling, gets stripped, fumble at the 15. Dallas takes over, and the rest is history. So it's amazing how quickly everything just changed. Because if Carolina punches it in and goes up 7-0, I think we have a completely different game.
Well, we got a whole different mentality now.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
So, anyway,
the school is still out on Bryce Young. I know he was #1 draft choice and all that stuff, but he really. There's been some flashes, but he has some things against him, size being one of them.
Yep.
And we don't know. We don't know what kind of future he has. It doesn't look like he's going to be a guy that you're going to depend on to be the #1 quarterback on your team. If they can find, of course, you got to find other players to replace him because there's not that many out there. But he might have a good backup.
I think he still has a shot. I mean, what I like about what I've seen him lately is now that he's getting more comfortable. See, the thing what made him interesting at Alabama, everybody knew about his height as an issue, but what they saw in him was he was like a magician out there. He would make incredible plays that you'd go, I mean, this is just, again, Patrick Mahomes-esque. But that's what they would say. Is amazing how he would make these plays. And that's what I think excited people in the NFL was, hey, if he could do that there, he could do that here. He played big boy college football in the SEC. So what's happened is, obviously, he's off to a slow start. He doesn't have good talent around him. Now he's starting to play better. And I'm also seeing some of those plays come back. I'm seeing him scramble around and making plays. Look, he's still a very young quarterback on a bad, talented football team. So I think there's hope. But he has to be surrounded. Look, remember, those Alabama teams, he had like the best talent in college football around him. So he's got to get to that level in the NFL before I think we can, give up on him too soon as a starter. But there are definitely issues with his height. No question about it. That would scare me. Okay. Meanwhile, what do you think about the game? Because the Panthers they've covered 5 straight as dogs. So let's keep that in mind. They've looked really good in this dog roll. Arizona, meanwhile, snapped their losing streak. But this is also not a good spot for Arizona. 0-3 straight up and against the spread as a road favorite since the 2021 season. They're not in this situation very often. And when they are, they have not played well.
Well, you got another small quarterback with a lot of talent.
There you go. That's right.
He's been around a while. He's got a lot of experience, and God knows to me, it's a James Conner game. He's a great running back. They have the ability to run the ball down your throat and just pound you with it. And I think if they stick to that formula, they probably win the game. But I'm not going to lay it. I'd be on the dog. I'd be on the Panthers to try to end their season with some positivity after laying a big egg last week. But I don't trust them, so I'm not going to play it.
Yeah, I think it's not. It's probably a much. Not probably. It's definitely a much safer way to go money line wise than the Giants. Carolina is sitting there at right now. I could get 2-1 on the money line with Carolina. I think I'm going to use that in some way. I think it's definitely because I look at this game as a coin flip. I think it can go either way, to tell you the truth. And in that situation, anytime I think a game can go either way, I try to go with the dog. So.
Well, yeah, that's logical. You're giving up the 4.5 to get 2-1.
Yeah,
2-1.
that's
Basically,
true. That's true.
You're saying, yeah, it's tough with a team like this. But yeah, I'll go along with that
because they have lost. They have lost 4 straight.
But it is possible, and they've played well in the dog role, and I can't argue with that.
By the way, interesting. If you look at it, both of these quarterbacks are pretty much identical in size and weight. So they're both about 5'10", 208. So interesting. So you see Kyler Murray made it, but we'll see if Bryce can make it. Okay, Detroit and Chicago. And Detroit, you mentioned this is a good teaser, which really does make a lot of sense. Detroit is what? They're still about a 6.5-point favorite now. And
there's 6.5. You see a 7 too, but there's mostly 6.5. But here you got a massive. This is a division game, so you got a division road favorite, which is never a great situation. But Chicago is an absolute mess, and Caleb is not. He is not doing. He's making the same kind of mistakes he made in college, and people wondered whether he would grow out of that. But the problem is he's had almost zero coaching. The coaching situation in Chicago is a mess.
Yep.
Ownership there is a mess. This team needs a whole. I don't know if you could bring back Lombardi. I'm talking about Coach Lombardi from years ago to rebuild this. This is a major problem there. Everything about this team is a mess. So, and you're getting Detroit coming in off of a loss. They know that they're not being considered the best team in football anymore. They're now not. They're also worried now they're not going to get number 1 seeding, and everybody's talking about Philadelphia, and everybody's talking about Buffalo, who just beat them. And Dan Campbell is not a timid guy. He's a guy. When he beats you, he wants to beat you, and beat and break your kneecaps and all that other stuff that he talked about. I would not want to stand in front of Detroit this week. Yeah. I think they're going to be in a very mean mood. And that offense, even though they lost a really great running back, that offensive line and Goff are very, very talented. That's the defense that's difficult to deal with because they've lost so many players. But Chicago is not built to take advantage of that.
Nope. This isn't
I don't know,
Buffalo.
I don't know how Chicago's going to put up a lot of points against the defense, even if it's hurt. They're just not that good.
Yeah, losing now, again, they've lost their top edge rusher. They've lost their top interior defender. I mean, these are not just starters. These are 2 of the best in their positions in the NFL.
Correct.
And you lose both of them, and maybe their most talented secondary piece is questionable, Branch. And he's such a big part of that secondary. So, Detroit, they've won 6 straight. They've covered 5 out of the last 6 on the road. They have beaten Chicago 2 out of 3, but they have not covered any of those 3, and including the 23-20 win as a 9-point favorite on Thanksgiving that we all remember. But Chicago, if you look at them, they've lost 8 straight, 2-5-1 ATS last 8. But at home, they've won 3 out of 6, and they are 4-1-1 against the spread. So
now you said Detroit has won a bunch straight, but that was against Chicago because they did lose last week.
Say that again.
Detroit
correct.
Lost.
Yeah, no, I said on the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
6-0 straight out, 5-1 against the spread on the road, and by the way, the Lions are 0-3 against the spread in their last 3. So, but this is the Bears. Matter of fact, I think one of those games was against the Bears when they were 0-3 against the spread. It was the first game. And then we've had the last two, I think. Okay, so let's now go to the 4 o'clock games. And we're not going to even talk about Jacksonville and Vegas. By the way, Aiden O'Connell is going to start. That's all we're going to talk about. Minnesota and Seattle. So Seattle, this is their home finale.
And Geno is playing, by the way.
Geno's playing. Kenneth Walker is back. So they get their starting quarterback back. They get their top running back back. Home finale. Desperate for the game. Minnesota, meanwhile.
Very desperate. Both teams want to win, but this is a very difficult spot. You got an indoor team traveling west to play in potential weather and you can't predict. I mean, I had a home in Seattle for a while. Every 15 minutes, the weather forecast changes. So you really can't predict the weather. I mean, it's right on the ocean. The weather, it changes like Cleveland. It's the same thing. You know, you're constantly changing weather conditions. This is a tough spot in Seattle, coming off that embarrassing loss to the Packers. Just a couple. I mean, I don't want to be standing. Seattle's coming to play. They're going to play hard in this game.
Oh yeah.
Now, are they good enough to beat? Because Minnesota's pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, they're good enough.
Yeah, and so this is, and Geno is, he's been around in the league 10, 11, 12 years, and he's had 1 or 2 good years, and the rest have been marginal. At times, he can look pretty bad. But this is, like I said, it's a big two basically new coaches in the league, head coaches. But and this is a tough game. I would not be on the favorite because I just think it's desperation time for Seattle, and they have the capability of playing well.
Well, they had just made a 4-game run of winning all 4, all as dogs. And let's keep this in mind too: is that when you're playing that role as a dog, it's pretty simple. What it's telling you is they're playing good teams. So they've had this schedule run of playing some good teams, and they've won 4 out of those 5. So let's remember they look, probably weren't winning, but they made it a 2-score game when Geno got hurt. And you never know what happens from half to half. They did stop the Packers in the running game in the second half, so we don't really know what would have happened if Geno would have stayed healthy in the second half. So now he's back, and Minnesota is already in the playoffs. So this is just about, can they get the 1 seed? Can they win the division? But Seattle's playing for everything. And again, it's their home finale, so I am definitely on board with Seattle here. Vikings have won 7 straight, 4-2-1 against the spread in those last 7. Okay. And unlike last week when we had like a smorgasbord of 4 o'clock games, that's the only good 4 o'clock game. That's it.
Yeah.
So
there's the matchup between San Francisco and Miami is interesting, but mostly because the coaches, Miami coached with, Shanahan, and both these teams are. I mean, it would take a miracle for them to get anywhere, but either one. And it's a pick'em game. I see a little bit of San Francisco 44.5. I don't know what the hell has happened to the Miami offense. I mean, Tua, I don't know. With that offense, how can you not get the ball and
I explained that.
How can you not get the ball in Hill's hands at least a dozen times a game?
No, what the problem is the difference of where you get on the ball. And in the previous year, they were able to get him the ball down the field. Now they have to give him the ball at the line of scrimmage and have him make plays. And teams are giving him that because they're saying, all right, if you can do that 7 times in the drive, go ahead and do it. But we're not giving you the easy 7. And the Dolphins' offensive line is in shambles. So the offensive line is an issue. So he can't hold on to the ball for the long pass. They're taking away the long pass. And this is what happens. This is why coaching is so important, because it's easy for a coach to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And then he does it and everything's great. But what happens when the rest of the league watches film and catches up to you? Are you capable of now changing your offense to beat what the defense is doing? And right now, the Dolphins have been unable to do that. And let's keep in mind, the receivers have been banged up. The offensive line, Tua hasn't played for 5 games this year. So I think once Tua went out, the writing was on the wall that they weren't making the playoffs this year. So, and by the way, Tyreek Hill's questionable for the game. So got to keep an eye on that. Waddle's not going to play.
He's got that wrist injury from when he was arrested, which was a terrible situation, which was garbage. I mean, never should have happened.
Yeah, he never should have sped on his way to the game. You're absolutely right. Waddle, meanwhile, is doubtful. So just imagine if both of them aren't playing. That'd be huge.
And San Francisco's got a million injuries as well. And
absolutely.
And now they're going to have a big issue with Brock Purdy because he's looking for a $50 million payout on his next contract. And now the question is, are they going to even pay him, or are they going to move him somewhere else? And there's a lot of decisions with both these teams in the offseason.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you give Purdy $50 million, as long as you don't have to give him one of those mega deals, I think San Francisco has to do it. That's just the economy. It's the way the NFL contracts are. Because if Daniel Jones can get reasonably in that ballpark, then Purdy's going to get it.
It's unbelievable money. I know it's chump change to these owners because they have so much money, but it's wild. I mean,
yep.
I don't know. It is what it is.
Okay, and who knows? Maybe what they'll do is they'll pull another Purdy and they'll draft another quarterback like in the mid rounds. Let's see, a quarterback with experience in college that'll be a 3rd or a 4th round pick. Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. That could be interesting if San Francisco pulls another Purdy and goes ahead and drafts a kid like Gabriel. Because
how about what they did with Trey Lance?
Yeah, that was a boneheaded decision. I mean, when they did it, you didn't know why they were doing it.
I don't think it was as bad as the Deshaun Watson for $253 guaranteed after 27 sexual claims against them. I think that was the dumbest thing that football's ever seen.
Yes, well, keep in mind that there were a lot of those things that the Browns at the time were not aware of when they made the.
Come on, what do you mean they're not aware? We were all reading about it in the newspapers. It was. I'm just telling
you what happened at the time when they paid them. There were some things that they did not.
But nobody does guaranteed full contracts.
No, that's crazy. That you're 100% right. That was nuts. And again, if you want to learn more about how it all went down, we have a video here on the channel with my interview with Fred Greetham, who covers the Browns, and we talked about it. So you can check that out. All right.
I will do that.
All right. You haven't seen that one yet. Oh, that's the Browns one. Come on. I know you're a Browns guy. You got to check that one out.
I'm not a Browns guy. I'm not any guy.
Well, you're from Ohio. So that's
no, I'm not. I visit Ohio.
Oh, you visit Ohio. You got all these Ohio ties.
I have family there.
Okay.
I've never lived in Ohio.
Where did you grow up?
In Pennsylvania and New York.
Okay. So did you grow up a fan of any team?
Oh, well, maybe when I was 6 or 8, but not when I started gambling. You can't be a fan and be a gambler.
Well, I mean,
you can't do that.
Take one team.
You have to have no heart when it comes to gambling.
Well, that's true. I mean, I'm just saying you could be a gambler and not be a fan of a team. You just got to learn how to use your head, not your heart.
Well, if you're gonna, okay. Well, I'll take gambling lessons from you any day.
No, you're not. Not gambling lessons. As far as that ain't gonna work. Just how to. You could be a fan of a team. That's all. I've learned the hard way many years ago. That when I used to bet to be like, hey, matter of fact, because you know your team, as long as you know your team, it's an advantage. because you can actually, when you can tell people, don't do that. I know my team. It's not a good bet. But there are people out there that aren't capable of, if they've got a favorite team, they'll wind up betting on their favorite team because they're their favorite team.
There's an old saying, somebody said, use your feelings to feel things and emotions to feel things, but make decisions with your head.
Absolutely.
And when you're a fan, that is not it doesn't work.
No.
And by the way, how well did you do this year being a fan of the Jets?
I'm betting against them a lot. I mean, how many times did I tell everybody, what are they doing being a favorite? I mean, I don't know how I could have been any louder.
I still can't understand why people out here kept betting on them.
I know. It was amazing.
I mean, if they bet on them, this is the week to bet on them. The home dog, but not when they were all
I agree.
Crazy. Yes. Crazy nut stuff.
Yep. Yeah. So, all right. So, by the way, New England's at Buffalo, and this is a good game for Buffalo because of the fact that they need to try and catch Kansas City. They're going to find out, of course, if Kansas City loses today, which would put them at least a game behind the Chiefs. Don't forget, they beat the Chiefs, so that could make things interesting. And this would also be important. So you're the Cincinnati Bengals, say you are rooting big time for Houston and the Bills because you want Kansas City in a meaningful game in their final game of the regular season when they take on Denver. You do not want Kansas City sewed up the number one spot, resting everybody, because Denver will cakewalk over the Chiefs and the Bengals have no shot. So this is something that could have implications, but Houston would have to upset the Chiefs. As far as Buffalo, what are they, 14 still?
Yes.
What do you think about giving 14 in this spot?
I'm not doing it. I'd be on the other side. I'd definitely be on the other side, and I'd probably bet it over because one thing about New England is they don't quit. And the kid, May, he can throw the ball around, and he has thrown the ball around. So I'd definitely be taking 14 here. If I'm playing the game, which I have not, I'd be taking 14.
They're going to have a rematch in a couple of weeks. These two teams have not played each other this year. The Bills and the Patriots. I mean, that kind of scheduling is just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know how they come up with that. But the Bills are going to end their season with Patriots, the Jets, and the Patriots. So the Chiefs better not lose to the Texans today because they are going to be having to play the rest of their season like it means something. So anyway, the Bills have won 8 out of 9. They've covered 7 out of 9. But I'm sure their defense is going to have to get better starting on Sunday because they've given up 86 points in the last 2 games.
Yeah, they played pretty good teams too.
Okay, and then as far as the Sunday night game is Tampa Bay and Dallas. And this is actually the one that I'm going with. This is like my top play of the week. There wasn't a lot of games I like this week myself, but I'm just going with Tampa Bay because of the fact that it's just simple. They need the game immensely. They know they haven't clinched anything. They're far from clinching anything. And they're playing a Dallas team that's just inferior to them right now. Even though the Dallas Cowboys have not given up, they've shown that they're not one of those teams that's given up on their coach. They've gotten a little bit healthier as well, but it's still the Dallas Cowboys, and it's still Cooper Rush at quarterback against Baker Mayfield. And it's only 4 points. So I'm definitely taking the Bucs in this one.
If I was playing the Bucs in this game, I would bet the money line because I'm a little afraid of Dallas. They've actually, if they had not blown the game against Cincinnati with that, unbelievable play, they would be, I think, 5 straight wins. They haven't quit, and hats off to them for that because they are playing. This is a dangerous spot. You got Tampa Bay just went to the West Coast and annihilated the Chargers. And they're still on the road. Now they're in Dallas. I like Tampa a lot, and I love the way Baker's played this year. However, this is not an easy spot. It's a very difficult thing to do, to go like that, put up a 40-burger on the Chargers, and then go to Dallas, who rightfully so, they should have won 5 in a row. This is not a team that has quit, and that's a tough spot. I do like a lot of points in this game, however. I think you're going to see a lot of points. 48.5.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, the Bucks defense surprisingly played well in their last game without Winfield. That was a big surprise. So we'll find out if that can happen. If they keep that up and do that same thing on Sunday night, then they should have no problem. But, that might have just been a one-game deal. Could have been a matchup deal. The one thing, though, that really cemented it for me is just the way the Cowboys have played at home. They're 0-5 straight up. Yes, as a home dog this year.
They have been bad, but that was earlier. And lately, they're actually putting up a bigger effort. They should have beaten the Bengals. They actually should have beaten them, which is...
Well, I mean, the game was tied at the time, so they still had to score on that punt.
I understand, but they did play competitively.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would have put the Bengals away. They wouldn't even be in this thing right now if the Cowboys would have won.
You got to remember, too, when you're talking about the Bengals, even though they're terrible on defense, they have one of the best, if not the best, offenses in football. And they played strong against them.
Do you know the last time that these two teams met?
I can't recall that.
2022 playoffs.
Oh, against Brady?
Brady's last game.
Okay.
Dallas beat him on the road as a 2-point road favorite. That was it for Tom Brady's career. Tampa Bay, to this again, there's three reasons this is my best game this week. I told you the one reason. The second reason, the way that the Cowboys have played at home this year. And the third reason is Tampa Bay is 10-7 straight up, 13-4 against the spread in their last 17 games on the road. So they have played much better on the road than at home. And the final game of the week is Green Bay at home against New Orleans on Monday Night Football. And not only are the Saints without, I guess, I don't know if Carr's any closer to playing, but
he's not playing.
The fact is they're now without Alvin Kamara as well. So Kamara, no Carr.
This is the game that everybody should just go to the movies.
Oh, and not pick the Packers and
don't even think about it. Just
really?
Go away. Go do something else.
So you think this is going to be like an ugly kind of game?
I think it'll be very low scoring. It's going to be cold as hell. You got an indoor team playing outdoors with a lot of backup material, backup coach, everything. Green Bay will win the game. They may not put up a big effort either, but they're going to win. They might win 21-0. They might win 17-10. But you're not going to see a lot of points. I like the under.
Just a couple of quick weather updates for the Seattle-Minnesota game. It's going to be 50 degrees and raining. So you're going to get some wind, but it's going to be raining for sure. They say 90% chance of rain for the Seattle-Minnesota game. And in the Green Bay game, they call for, well, it's cold. We all know it's going to be cold, but they also say we might get some snow showers for the Green Bay.
And the advantage there is, and it's magnified because both of the opponents are indoor teams.
Yep, there you go. And Green Bay, check this out, though. Green Bay 4-0, straight up and against the spread in their last four as double-digit favorites. But that was all with Aaron Rodgers. The last four games, even though Love has not played well, the Packers have scored 30, 31, 30, and 38. Just imagine if Jordan Love starts playing like he did last year.
This is what he did last year at the end of the season. He was amazing.
Well, he hasn't played well yet.
This whole thing with Detroit, the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings in that division, this is a war that they got going on there. And that's a hell of a division. We have to mention that the Bears are there too, but we can forget about them.
Oh, and by the way, the Packers, though, if the spread happens to go more than 14, even though I told you that they're 4-0 in their last double-digit numbers, if it goes more than 14, they're 0-6 in their last 6 against the spread. All right, so there you go. That's it for week 16 in the NFL. Jim and I are going to return on Monday, and hey, maybe we'll have more to talk about the Packer game. I know Jim can't wait. So we're going to wrap up week 16 in the NFL. even though there's not a lot of, there's a couple of really big games. So one of them's coming up later today.
And we got some great, we got some college football stuff.
Absolutely. Kicking off right now as we speak.
I did pick up a winner. I did pick up a winner yesterday with Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Nice. A lot of people didn't think they could do it, but they did it. And here we go.
And now we've got Penn State, and we got I'm hoping, of course, for a Clemson. I've got Clemson on the money line. And then, the big one tonight, Ohio State and Tennessee. Will they show up? That's what everybody's waiting for. Will Ohio State show up for the game?
They've had a lot of turmoil there, a lot of coaching issues. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yep. So it's going to be fun.
It should
College football playoffs.
I'm really glad that we got 12 teams because it brings in so much more.
Yes.
Than when it's already narrowed down to 2 or 4 teams. I mean, it's terrible. It eliminates the whole world. This is exciting to have 12 teams. It really is. I like it a lot.
Should be a really fun day. We'll talk more about it as well on Monday's show. So, Jim, appreciate it. I'll talk to you in a couple of days.
Okay, buddy. Thank you. Take care, guys.